The following episode of the Maui Chamber of Commerce's Business Matters was originally broadcast on March 14th, 2023.
It's time now for Business Matters, sponsored by Mokulele Airlines, hosted by Pam Toompop. Now here's your host, Pam. Good morning, Pam.
Hey, good morning, Gary. Thank you so much for always being our great technician and production person on the show with us every week. We appreciate all you do and all that Ka'oi does for us. Want to welcome everybody to Business Matters. I'm your host, Pamela Toompop, president of the Maui Chamber of Commerce, and it's a glorious day in Pukalani today. I hope it's bright and beautiful where you are. We are going to have a fun morning. We're going to talk with Dr. Eugene Tian, who is the Research and Economic Analyst Division, Department of Business, Economic Development, and Tourism Division Administrator. His office conducts research on economic issues such as tourism, emerging industries, diversification, quality of life, technology, energy, and taxation, all things that are extremely important to us all. They also produce the official statewide short-range economic forecast on a quarterly basis, and he's here to talk about the recent report, and they do a long-range population and economic forecast every 5 years. Aloha and good morning, Eugene. It's so great to have you with us this morning and back again.
Aloha, good morning. I'm so happy to be on the show again.
We always love having you on. You provide such vital information for us, and we're thrilled to hear about the March 2nd, 2023 report that's been released. Tell us, I know one of the things that was included in that report is Hawaii's visitor arrivals and spending this quarter compared to previous years, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on, what happened this first quarter and how it affects Hawaii's economy.
Yes, we released our economic forecast about 2 weeks ago, March 2nd, and there is a lot of changes during the last 2 weeks, and especially in the last few days. And we heard about the U.S., the banks are closing, so there's 3 of them, and they have in trouble. But when we did the forecast, the economy looked great, especially in the tourism. The recovery in December, I think the data we had was in January, December. In January data is actually, we showed about a 96% recovery.
Wow.
This is in comparison with January 2019.
Mm-hmm.
So the visitor arrival in 2020 was about 9.2 million. And we projected this year, 2023 will be about 9.8 million. So this is in comparison with 10.4 million in 2019. So we're still low. The full recovery for tourism is not going to happen until 2025.
Okay.
So, but this, in terms of visitors, we do see some slowing down from the U.S. mainland. That will impact Maui because the Maui visitors is about 85% mainland and about 15% international. So we will see some declining compared with last year from the mainland, mainly because of the U.S. Possible economic recession, at least a slowing down in economic growth. So there will be impact in the arrivals. So we may see some slowing down in tourism on Maui, but we will see an increase on Oahu because Oahu visitor composition is 50-50.
Right.
50% international and 50% domestic. So we do see that the international are catching up. So there will be more recovery from international, especially from Japan. So Oahu will see an increase, and Maui may see a decrease.
Yeah, that's true. We still, over time, without those direct flights, we're still still the island hop, don't have the same level of internationals at Oahu. But that's really good to know because, one of the things that happened before COVID was we'd come off such a great 2019 that a lot of our retailers had really invested a lot in inventory. And then when as we rolled around to 2020 and COVID hit and we were shut down, they had very high levels of inventory. So it's good to, and then really suffered for the first several months of COVID being shut down. So it's good to kind of understand where we're going with the visitor market and how we can taper as we move forward this year. So, you mentioned a lot of changes, but before we go into some of the newer changes, I know that you had a forecast for the U.S. economy in the coming months, given the changes in GDP growth. How do you see that impacting Hawaii?
As I said, the U.S. GDP, the economic growth, will impact our visitors. The last year, in 2022, the U.S. economy, the growth rate was about 2.2%. And this year is going to be 1%. Okay. So it decreased significantly. And I think there will be possible recession maybe during the second half of this year because I think the federal, mainly the federal increased the interest rate and for the purpose of fighting for inflation. But an increasing interest rate will impact two industries. I think one is the construction, basically the housing investment, because high rate will mean a high cost of investment. So construction will be slowing down. And the second industry impacted will be real estate. High interest rate means high mortgage rate. So I think our mortgage rate reach about 7%. I think now it's a little bit below 7%. But it is very high compared with around 2% in 2021. So we do see a double-digit decrease in terms of number of sales and also double-digit decrease in housing price. And this happens for all the islands in the state. So I think that is the impact from the U.S. Economic slowing down.
Now, out of curiosity, do you see, and part of this might be timing, I know that we're trying to rush urgently to meet not only Governor Josh Green's interest in, building attainable housing and rentals, as well as I think all of the mayors now in each county are unified as housing is a top priority. Do you see any buffer from our local initiatives on this in terms of building housing? Will we continue to just boldly, as we've been planning, to boldly move forward, or do you see that also slowing those housing efforts?
I think the private construction will be slowing down, but we do see the government construction will be increasing. Actually, I would say increasing significantly. I think the reason is the three level of government, federal government, and they put in a lot of money, but most of the money are for shipyard. I think it's in Pearl Harbor on Oahu. So I think the total improvement for Pearl Harbor is about $9 billion. I think Hawaii businesses will get about $4 billion. I think it's yesterday. I think the federal government announced that of the $4 billion, I think they had about $2.8 billion was awarded to Hawaii companies. And the state government, normally during the slowing economic period, the state government spent a lot of money. I think on average in the last 10 years, the state spent over $1.3 billion a year.
Wow.
In the last 3 years, it's $1.5 billion. But this year and next year, I think the state is planning to spend more than $1.5 billion on the affordable housing and others. So because currently the state financial situation is good, the state has a lot of savings or balances. And I think they had about $2 billion a year. And I think all the residents in the state have enjoyed the $300 per person.
Yes.
Was sent out, I think, last year during August, September, and October. So that's total about 311 million dollars statewide.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad to hear that because it's knowing that it's tough times. But again, a lot of that government construction requires special contractors. So there are people focused on government construction and state work and large contracts, and a lot of local contractors and smaller businesses that I think we're going to see some impact on in a bigger way. So, another thing, and we were talking about this a little bit, and we've been talking about this throughout, actually, inflation and how, what's going on with inflation, and again, how we're seeing interest rates rise again to try and curb inflation. So I saw that according to the report, Hawaii's consumer inflation rate is projected to increase 3.1% in 2023. And nominal personal income is estimated to increase 3% in 2023. So with these increases, how do you see this impacting Hawaii's residents and families?
Yeah, I think if you think about it, the 3% inflation and the 3% income growth, in terms of real, we call it inflation-adjusted income. That means no growth. So in the real growth, there is no, if 3% income growth and 3% inflation, so all the growth will be eaten by inflation. So Hawaii's inflation rate in the last 20 years is about 2.4%. 2.4%. So we had about 6.5% last year, and this year is going to decrease significantly to about 3.1%. So that is the improvement, but it's still high compared with the average of the last 20 years. So I think with the high inflation, and it is not good for consumers, especially for people with fixed income like retirees and those people on government assistance. So they will have some difficult time because of the inflation is high. At a national level, we don't have the state level for every month. Next month we'll have a March number. But today, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, federal government, released the inflation for the U.S. as a whole at 6%, 6.0%. So last month, in January was 6.4%. So we do see the U.S. inflation was trending down since July 2022. So when in June 2022, the U.S. inflation was about 9.1%. So now it's down to 6%. So it's declining. I think one of the reason declining is because the Federal Reserve Bank increased the interest rate. So it is working. But with the last few days, we see there are two banks they closed or they were getting in trouble. And the Silicon Valley Bank and the other one, I think is called a Signature Bank in New York. So I think because of these, I think one of the reasons the bank closure is because of the interest rate increase in interest rate. At the same time, they will reduce the price of the government bond in the bond market. The price decrease, but the banks have to sell the bonds in order to increase liquidity, which means they don't have money. They have to sell their bonds in order to operate because people coming to get cash to withdraw money. And they don't have the money. They have to sell their bonds. And when they sell their bonds, they have to sell at a low price. So they get very big loss in their revenue. So that's why I think also there are other investment companies, and they worried, so they asked their members to withdraw their money from the bank. So that is all caused these problems. But because of this, I think the Federal Reserve Bank, the central bank, control the money supply. I think they will slow down in increasing the interest rates. I think they have a meeting next week. I think in the next week meeting, they may either not do anything, no increase, or they increase only by about 25 base points, 0.25%. So, and then I think in the future, there may be no more increase. So given what is happening in the economy. So there is a lot of things happening in the economy and in the world, in political, the war still continues, and the COVID is still not finished. But we do see some good news is many international markets has opened, especially opened to the tourism market. More flights adding on the international side, but we do see some reductions in the domestic side.
Right.
So, in terms of inflation, we are getting lower, but it's still higher than the average. So we'll be coming to the average in terms of inflation by about 2024 and 2025. So next year.
Well, it's interesting to see. I mean, it was such a great interest rate. Just, a year ago, really great interest rate, and you saw huge real estate sales. Definitely everything was shooting up. We keep talking in Maui County about, and statewide, I guess, as well, but the recent statistics were, how everything has greatly slowed down here recently. And that's true. I mean, I've been watching it. I've had a home up for sale, and thankfully mine just closed. But it's been an interesting time, really, to see just everything boom, and then all of a sudden, it was sort of like the COVID recovery. We were just sort of dead in the water, and then March came around and everything blossomed. And we were thrilled. And now this year we're seeing, just a huge real estate boom, and then March comes around and everything has slowed again. So the interest rate's really important, and a lot of people don't understand, like you talk about the 25 basis points, and what that equates to, that hike equates to, and if they get a new mortgage today, what that looks like versus if they had gotten it when the interest rates were considerably lower, even at 1 point lower. It's a huge deal, and it's hard to grasp when you're not in that industry.
Yes, I think the interest rate is the federal government, the Federal Reserve Bank increased the interest rate. That interest rate is the interest rate between banks. The banks borrow from other banks, so that is the interest rate. But it indirectly impacts the mortgage rate and all other prime rates. So because the increase in the interest rate, it will definitely increase the mortgage, but it will be beneficial for some of the people. They have they have cash, then they can either save in the bank. At the same time, the interest rate will be higher. And also during this time, we know the economic slowing down, especially in the construction real estate. If they have cash, and there will be a good timing going into the real estate market to buy homes with cash, because they don't need to do the mortgage, and the housing price is going to decrease. Now we see the first 2 months, it has been declining by double digits. So I think to certain people, it may be beneficial, but to the majority of the people, it may have some difficulties. I think especially when we do the economic forecast, We look at it, the U.S. economy is completely fully recovered in terms of job count. You see, the U.S. market, job market is very strong. The growth in GDP is fully recovered in 2021. But Hawaii's economy, the recovery is only about 95%. For the non-tourism, the recovery is about 98%, but tourism recovery is only 83%. Maui is okay. I think the Neighbor Island, especially Maui and Kauai, the visitor recovery is great. It's almost fully recovered because it's 85% from U.S. mainland. And U.S. mainland is about 12% higher than the 2019 level. It's all-time high. It's historical high in 2022. And we don't see that in 2023. So they'll be slowing down in 2023. Actually, when we see the tourism industry, there's only a few hotels are under construction, and they're all on Maui. So Maui has been good in terms of tourism. There is still some demand and still have some increase in the supply side. So, but I think this year
that was one of the great things that kept so many of our people working was taking that time when they were shut down to really renovate and continue to do so. Well, Eugene, you are always a wealth of knowledge, and can you tell everybody? I know it's hard to find these reports. Actually, I think maybe what we should do is, do you want to tell people where they can look for them? And I'm going to ask Amber of our office to also put it on the Chamber's website. But if you can give people a sense of how they could find it online if they want to go direct to the state office and find it.
I think a lot of people use Google. I think the best way is to in Google you just type DBEDT, DBEDT is stands for Department of Business, Economic Development and Tourism, DBEDT. Then give a space research or DBEDT research. So it will take you to the page of my office. So we have tons of data. We have the forecast. We have economic report. We have a lot of data, especially the population data. As you introduced me at the beginning, my office is in charge for the population. And any population, we work with the U.S. Census Bureau. Any population at the lowest unit is census tract. It's around 50 houses. We call a census tract. You can see in that tract how many people and what kind of people, their income, and employment rate, and how many Caucasians, how many Asians, how many Japanese. So data as detailed as that.
It really is important, and for our budding entrepreneurs who are maybe thinking of starting a business and wanting to write a business plan, getting this data, especially in these uncertain times, finding out who your market is, looking at your demographics, understanding the population is really important. Also, understanding the economic forecasts is really important for you to prepare in your business plan, and for those who are in business. This is the time, if you're not reviewing your business plan every month, you can start to be reviewing your business plan again every month. Take it out, dust it off, look at, check the data, and learn from all of this great economic forecast that's being done by Eugene and his team to update your numbers and your projections. This is a good time to do that, as things are uncertain, and as we might seem, we're looking at some slowing here, and want to gear up for changes that you might want to make that'll have a big impact on your survival. And I appreciated you too talking, Eugene, about, we always say cash is king, and it's really important, folks, to be saving your money, because again, if you were looking at housing and you had more cash, you're going to be able to buy a lot more than if you had to borrow with rising interest rates. And so, Eugene, you are a treasure in our state. We're always thrilled to have you on our show, and appreciate you. And for those listening, I will have Amber, Chief Chamber Angel at the Chamber of Commerce, post the most recent report on our chamber website so that you can find a quick link there too. But do the Google search and it's DBEDT. Do the Google search because, as Eugene said, there's a wealth of information under his department that you can benefit from. Well, Eugene, thank you so much for joining us. We love having you on, and we'll have you on next quarter.
Yeah, thank you, Pam, for inviting me. It's always my pleasure to be on your show. And I hope to see you sometimes on Oahu when you come to the Economic Association meeting.
I miss you guys. Actually, I'm looking forward to coming back soon. So I'm so thrilled and appreciate all that we do. You do, and the team. Eugene and I have the pleasure of being members of and serving on the board of the Hawaii Economic Association, known as HEA. Look it up. They do great things. Eugene, thank you so much. You have a beautiful day.
Oh, you're welcome. Okay, bye-bye.
Aloha. All right, we'll be right back after a brief message from our sponsor, Mokulele Airlines.
Mokulele Airlines operates the largest commuter airline hub in the country, right here in Kahului. Fly Mokulele from Kahului to Molokai, Lanai, Hana, Waimea, Kona, and now Hilo. Mokulele also operates the only flights between Kapalua and Honolulu. There is never a middle seat on Mokulele, and every seat has a window and aisle. Visit mokuleleairlines.com and take your next flight from the newly renovated Mokulele Terminal.
Welcome back to Business Matters. Hey, Pam, now that we've officially crossed over and halfway point of the legislative session, what are some of the bills that the Chamber's looking at?
Gary, I'm glad you asked. It's always interesting when you're at this halfway point, but we saw some good bills die. We saw some bad bills die, but here we're moving forward. So let me start with one that we've talked about before. This is on access deer. We want to look at how we can continue to leverage using access deer as a resource. So we have, hold on just a second, I just lost my bill number on access deer. Okay, well, let me go down the list first since I can't find that one all of a sudden. It didn't jump out at me, but there's a lot of bills that also relate to different things in terms of productization, which could maybe relate to access deer. But there's a bill, we're always trying to look at how we reduce plastic. But sometimes some of the plastic that we use is stuff that it's hard to control, and some of it's stuff that comes in from the mainland, and it affects packaging of things brought in, as well as packaging of things manufactured here. So there's a bill, Senate Bill 504, that would prohibit the manufacture, sale, offer for sale, distribution, and distribution for use of any food packaging, cosmetic, or personal care products that contain PFAs. And while we understand there's a growing concern with PFAs, this bill is really broad. So there's a lot of stores and a lot of products that people purchase that are brought in with packaging that has PFAs that are approved by the Federal Drug Administration or Food and Drug Administration. So there is, while there's some concern, these products are approved, and so we're watching that bill. But the bill is being heard this morning at 9:30. So if you are concerned about this bill, if you are a store, if you manufacture and use some of these products, you want to look into this bill. Also, if you're concerned about PFAs, you want to look into this bill. But we're talking there. Well, we understand the growing concerns. Our concern is the bill is very broad, and it currently could expand to products that are considered by the Food and Drug Administration to not be harmful. And so to limit so many products being used in Hawaii, we feel is a challenge. But this is Senate Bill 504. Then we have Senate Bill 54. This bill prohibits the operation of gasoline-powered leaf blowers in any urban and use districts. So again, we want to keep moving to electric products that, not using gas. But what we're finding is, and the bigger issue on this seems to be more the noise as well. So the bill has crossed over to the House and will be heard next week in its first committee. This seems to be, hotly watched by and have people ringing in by the landscaping industry. So if this bill impacts you in the landscaping and maintenance industries, Senate Bill 54 is something that we're watching and ringing in on as well. Senate Bill 270. This bill was originally worded to eliminate the tip credit. However, it was amended in committee. So as things move along in the legislative process, changes are made. So you have to continually watch the bills. Sometimes a good bill can have something inserted and it's a bad bill. Sometimes a bad bill can have something inserted and it turns out to be a good bill. So when they eliminated the tip credit, that was a concern. It was amended in its first committee to include a report from the Department of Labor and Industrial Relations and an education program for employees and employers on federal and state wage and hour laws, including the tip credit. So it really morphed. And while we're thrilled that the bill was amended to and support the current version as they study this issue without just arbitrarily making that decision, as it moves forward, again, legislators can consider passing the original version, which would be very harmful to our restaurants. Many who operate on slim margins. So they count on that tip credit. So it has not yet been scheduled for a hearing in the House, so we're still watching it. But if you are in the restaurant industry, I'm sure you're already watching Senate Bill 270, and please know that all things are still possible while the bills are being heard. They can continue to be amended. House Bill 16, this authorizes liquor licensees to sell unopened beer, wine, and prepackaged cocktails with food for pickup, delivery, and takeout to other means, to be consumed off premises. So this was a provision that allowed our restaurants, it was a way for them to continue to sell alcohol that, was unopened, let's be clear, unopened, so not to be consumed in your vehicles. And it was something that was done during COVID, during the emergency proclamations, to really help businesses continue to make some income while they were struggling to survive. And what we learned was this can be done safely and responsibly. So this, we had a lot of models during COVID that showed some of these tight reins we had, like outdoor seating and not allowing such liquor sales, they can be done well. And so if you are a restaurant or purveyor and you sell alcohol in this way, unopened beer, wine, and prepackaged cocktails with food pickup or delivery, this bill is going to be heard on Wednesday, March 15th. So that would be tomorrow. House Bill 159, this bill deals with liquor licenses and exempts the notarization requirement for renewal of liquor licenses. And while it seems small, this can be a big deal for people trying to renew their license. And they can have had a license for many years and really struggle when just trying to get a notary when applying for the initial permit. So it's a small thing, but it's a little thing that's a big thing for those in the industry. And this bill is being heard on Wednesday. Again, tomorrow, 3:15, House Bill 159. Then we have House Bill 192. This bill prohibits the sale of certain fluorescent lamps as a new manufactured product. The rationale for this bill is that LED lights are up to 80% more energy efficient than fluorescent bulbs and can last 3 to 5 times longer. And fluorescent bulbs contain mercury, which is a toxic pollutant. This bill is being heard this afternoon. So House Bill 192, you can look it up. Again, we're moving in the right direction with our energy initiatives and wanting to keep pollutants out while moving to more efficient things. So House Bill 192, there are going to be some costs for some people with retrofitting, but take a look. It's a good bill to ring in on. Then we have House Bill 400. This bill establishes an employer-provided or employer-sponsored child care income tax credit for employers that pay for certain available child care services to their employees. So it also establishes an employer child care property income tax for the cost of child care property purchased or acquired by an employer and put into service for employer-provided child care. So again, any business investing in creating child care services for their employees, it includes, whether you're converting part of your space in your office or getting new space, we support this bill. Child care is a huge barrier for many women and men in getting back into the workforce after COVID. It really is an incentive for employees when their employers provide child care options, and it is an incentive for employers because of the tax credit. So we appreciate the incentives for businesses versus mandates that tell people what to do and how to spend their money without understanding whether the businesses by size or scale can afford it. So this is a great bill. It crossed over to the Senate but has not yet been scheduled for a hearing. So we are encouraging people to let senators know that we want to support it. It was heard in the House. And there is another bill in the House that essentially does the same thing that is also alive, which is House Bill 1203. So House Bill 400 and 1203 are very similar. So we wanted to just keep you apprised of these. This is one where both employees and employers should be ringing in because these are great bills to help with child care. And then House Bill 491, this requires the Department of Labor and Industrial Relations to conduct a study on a leave grant pilot program to help small business offer their employees family paid leave and paid sick leave. So right now, depending on your business size, there are different requirements for leave. And this bill has crossed over to the Senate, but has not yet been scheduled for a hearing. So that's House Bill 491, and we're watching that. It's one of those things that we're trying to see, and we like the idea of a study, trying to see what is the impact on businesses of different sizes. We're trying to see, can you move the dime a little bit on providing leave, but without hurting our small businesses and job loss? So it's this constant balance that we're working on. So we're very excited to be doing that. And let me circle back because I was noticing that I don't have anything here, and it is because some of the bills that we were working on with we're still waiting for some updates, but some of them didn't make it through. So we're still watching, but I will give an update on Access Deer and affordable housing bills next time I know that we've covered them on the last report. So I will cover them again. So we'll do that next week. And we are pleased to have Taryn Leigh, who is owner of Maui Company, with us. Taryn is the owner of the company, but also one of our 2022 Hawaiian Airlines Made in Maui County Festival participants. And I'm excited to have Taryn join us because I was out with COVID, so I didn't get to visit her booth. So I want to learn more about Maui Jun. Good morning, Taryn. How are you today?
Good morning, Pam. How are you doing? I'm great. Thank you.
Oh, I am awesome. It is absolutely stunning where I live. What part of the island are you on?
I am located in Kula in Maui.
Oh!
Yes. Yes. It's gorgeous.
You're just above me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Isn't it nice to have a beautiful morning after all the wind and rain?
Oh, it is just, it's like being born again.
It is. The sun comes up and you just feel this total sense of renewal. Well,
absolutely.
I'm so glad to have you on because I did not, this year I caught COVID just days before the festival and I didn't get to be there, but I would love to learn more. Tell people what Jun is and a little bit about how you got in the business.
Well, Jun is a term used for honey-fermented kombucha products, which hail from the mountainous terrain of Tibet. In my opinion, it's the source and origin of kombucha as we know it now. So most commercially produced kombuchas on the market, they're produced with imported cane sugar. And our unique kombucha product is produced with not only honey, but it is raw honey gathered from our gorgeous island of Maui. So this honey is not only supplied by myself as a beekeeper, I also source from other local honey harvesters. At this moment in time, I'm primarily sourcing from Bee Nourish, which is a beautiful new company of beekeepers here on Maui. So fermenting with honey results in a product which greets the tongue as silky smooth, delicate, never harsh, or vinegary in nature. So with that, I am granted the ability to create unique flavors. And you asked me how I got into doing this.
Yes,
so,
what made you start kombucha product and were you a beekeeper first?
I actually really got into it because a neighbor of mine was keeping bees, and I started learning, and then I decided to start just fermenting for myself. So after nearly 20 years of working in the healthcare industry as a remedial massage therapist, I wish to continue out in the world of healthcare by supplying a healthy beverage alternative, something where I could be creative with. And that allowed me to connect with the community at large. So on Saturdays, I decided to have fun connecting to my community by offering a unique locally produced creation at our popular Upcountry Saturday Market.
Yeah.
So it only took 2 markets, really, for me to understand how much this was needed and embraced. And people were really excited about the product. So that's how I began.
Oh, my gosh, that's phenomenal.
And honestly, I was simply looking for an alternative to cane sugar-produced kombuchas because kombucha appealed to me as the healthiest alternative to soda, which I love soda. So I grew up consuming soda, and I experienced a variety of health challenges pertaining to hypoglycemia. And since diabetes runs throughout my family, over 20 years ago, I decided to completely cut cane sugar out of my diet, and that produced really amazing health results. Still yet, I very much miss the pleasure of soda, the bubbles, all of that. So I discovered kombucha, but it wasn't 100% right for my body. So it was then that I naturally decided to play around with much loved classic and retro flavors with Eugene. And I eventually stumbled upon a niche within the market. It was a kombucha product that tastes very much like soda. So from there, I developed a line which is known for retro-inspired sodas like root beer, cherry cola, orange cream soda. So, yeah. And then we also have flavors that appeal to the kombucha enthusiasts like lilikoi ginger turmeric, cucumber spirulina, strawberry jasmine damiana, and dragon fruit banana, which are all local flavors.
Now, tell me about how you are inspired to create these new flavors. They all sound delicious, and of course, some of them sound like you're connecting with a lot of our local farmers. But tell us a little bit about the inspiration process to create these new flavors.
Well, I think I had mentioned that I really loved soda, and I really loved the retro flavors. I always went for like the orange creamy things or even grape soda. So I have, a kombucha flavor. It's called elderflower, jasmine, and violet. It's all flowers, no fruit. It kind of tastes like a probiotic sweet tart, but it also tastes like a natural grape soda. I kind of stumbled upon that by accident. So I was really inspired in missing sodas, and the direction to produce certain flavor profiles just come through me. I can't explain it honestly. I kind of get a hit and I play around with it. Usually doesn't take much playing around with, and the magic happens there, right? It's one of the best parts is the creativity behind the product, and the other best part is connecting with the community.
And then it clearly allows you to do both, which is really awesome, while still, your long-standing passion of helping people and being in the healthcare industry. What a
Correct, and
treasure.
I really wanted to, I don't want to forget to mention that we donate a portion of our profits to the Honeybee Health Coalition for colony collapse syndrome research. So we're giving back for sure. So, a company with integrity, it's really important to me.
Absolutely. Okay, so, and now Honeybee Health Coalition, is that something that you and the other beekeepers are a part of? Tell us a little bit about what Honeybee Health Coalition does.
So they are a national organization, and they do research on bees for the variety of reasons why, colonies would suffer. So there's this thing that has been happening for the past many years. It's called colony collapse syndrome, and the colonies are dying across not only the United States but the world, and they're trying to figure out why. So it's just a national organization which does research on, this in particular, but, all things bees.
Well, I'm glad to know a little bit. Thank you for sharing that. I'm glad to know more about that, because we keep hearing of so many things destroying our bee colonies, from those killer bees to, just other issues that are happening. And again, we often don't realize how important bees are to the world and to our everyday life and pollination.
Absolutely.
People forget where everything comes from, and so, or we haven't taught. For generations, we've moved away as we move further away from farming. A lot of people don't realize the importance of something, that we see and appreciate every day with bees, but we just have no clue on the role that they play.
Absolutely. And, the bees are our biggest pollinators, and there is no way humans can hand pollinate every single plant that provides our food, and we haven't quite developed the technology to do that. So we must take care of our bees, and beekeeping is a beautiful thing, because the beekeeper, small, not big farm produced, honey, but the small beekeeper population, we really care about our bees, and our goal is to multiply the colonies, right? To take good care of them, allow the colonies to multiply, make sure that there aren't any pests inside the hives, and that they are healthy and good.
Well, I'm so glad to know that you're a part of that. I took a beekeeping class and really enjoyed it, and had hoped to get into beekeeping. And we had some help with a small-scale thing we tried, and we lost our queen. We brought in expert help, but somehow we lost the queen, and that sort of died, and we didn't get off from doing that again. But one day I look forward to being a part of that community as well. But I'm so excited to learn how you've gotten into that, and also how using the honey really changes the dynamic of your product, both in terms of how the product comes through smoother, but also how it really, for those who have sugar issues, whether it's diabetes or other issues with sugar, how you've come up with a solution to help those on a healthcare level as well.
Yes, and it was all by accident. It was just, using what was available to me, and to be creative, right? And to do something a little different and connect with my community. And so I always say it happened by accident.
Happy accidents. That's awesome.
Correct.
So how many different products do you have now? How many different flavors?
Well, the long answer is, over 20 different flavors, but on the shelves I have 9 different flavors. So those flavors are lilac ginger turmeric, dragon fruit banana, elderflower jasmine violet, orange blossom fig, which is a new one, and it's amazing, inspired by Middle Eastern cuisine. We've got root beer, Palo Santo. We have a gorgeous cherry cola, and it's an old-fashioned cola recipe. It's not Pepsi Cola. It's different. It's created with the citrus peels of orange, lemon, lime, lavender flowers, star anise, coriander, cinnamon, vanilla bean, and, of course, a lot of cherries. We have orange cream soda and chocolate roast chaga. The rest of the flavors are revolving flavors in keg form at the farmers market and at our establishments that carry us on draft.
Well, let's talk about that. So we know people can find you at the Saturday Kula Farmers Market. You tell everybody where you can be found on draft.
Yeah, so I could be found on draft at Mahalo Ale Works. I can also be found on draft at Moku Roots. In bottle form, we are at the Maui Arts and Cultural Center, Mana Foods, Down to Earth, Alive and Well, Maui Coffee Roasters, the Market Maui over in Wailea. We've got Kuau Mart, Better Things Cafe, Rodeo General Store, Pauela Store, Pukalani Superette, Makawao Liquor Shack, Mori Harez, Vita by Sydney, Niu over in Wailuku, Farmers Market Maui and Honokawai, Endless Summer, Upcountry Farmers Market, Lahaina Jodo Mission Farmers Market, and then we're on Oahu at Down to Earth Oahu, South King Street, and Down to Earth.
Real quick, I'm so glad that you're in diverse areas so we can all get it. Taryn, can you quickly give us, do you have a website where people can learn more?
We are actually currently working on our website, but it's going to be live here in another couple days. But it's at www.mauijuncompany.com, and then we're also on Instagram and Facebook.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you have a beautiful Maui day. And to all of our listeners, we appreciate you tuning in. Please join us again next Tuesday. And we just want to wish you blessings and aloha for a beautiful Maui day and wonderful week. Ahui ho.